will conduct this part. So I will also go and join the other delegates so that I can observe. You decide who you invite, and you decide on the questions you ask them. It's all your file. Can you give a big round of applause to me?
Thank you very much, colleagues. It is an honor for me to be among you, and especially among people who are passionate about improving learner performance, enhancing the discipline of mathematics at grassroots level, and therefore contributing to the social development of the country. We believe that mathematics is central to the development of any society. Without mathematics, there is no life. That's what we believe. Because all processes that we rely upon depend on an understanding of mathematics, whether it is economic processes, whether it's biological processes, whether it is physical processes. Any phenomena is only understood using mathematical concepts, and therefore we believe that if we improve learner performance in mathematics, we're actually enhancing the country as a whole and the development of a society that we live in. I think the panelists that we are going to have here, who are going to be in the hot seat this afternoon, would be a member of the HEIs, one member coming from the higher education institutions, and I think might just ask those that have presented here. Professor Mkhize, I'm not sure if he's here. Perhaps he is the solution to what we want to do. Professor Mkhize, if you can join us. Mr. Raswete, join us. I also have a problem pronouncing his surname. Okay, and Mr. Kanyile. Okay, and I think she's no longer here from the Human Science Research Council. I can't find her anymore, so we'll skip that one. And we already have Mr. Divette. May I request them to take their seats? How many? I think we can have a couple more. Professor Msomi?
It's Vula. Should be Vula. We're skipping Vula here.
That we need to try and find solutions to that are a problem with respect to mathematics in our in our schools. The first one is to increase learner participation. It has been pointed out empirically that learner participation is declining in the province, and we need to find ways of improving learner participation in mathematics. Pure mathematics is the main driver of our economic participation, and therefore I'm going to request, in terms of what we have seen that the performance of students in earlier grades is very good, and then it sort of drops off at some point in their education. Is the performance or anticipated performance a factor in determining or in determining learner participation? In other words, do students leave mathematics because they perform poorly in mathematics? And if so, then if they have performed better at earlier grades, is it possible, what factors can you implement to ensure that that high level of performance continues? I'm going to make some suggestions, and some of you will be better suited to address some of those issues than others. So, okay, let's start with, okay, Mr. Yvette, you want to start off?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's no doubt that the performance drops off. I think there's a couple of reasons for that. I think one of the things that we see with boys coming to the school that I teach in is that often the junior school marks are quite inflated. So I think that is one of the considerations. But I think the bigger consideration is that when they get into high school, they then encounter the abstract as opposed to the concrete. And I think really good teachers are able to keep going back to the concrete, back to the abstract, back to the concrete, back to the abstract. And I think one, because the other complication is that every learner in the room will be ready for the abstraction that is algebra at a different age and stage. They will all get there eventually, but they won't all necessarily be ready for it when it's encountered in the annual teaching plan. And I think that is just, I mean, I'm not suggesting, well, I actually am suggesting that we don't introduce algebra too early, and I think that is already the case. But really, it's, for me, a big thing is the way algebra is taught, the way it's introduced. And to be honest, I think most textbooks are poor at that. They literally start off with X's and Y's and starting to add them and multiply them and do all sorts of things. I really think children need to be able to be given the opportunity to discover algebra, to engage with it.
Thank you so much. What can we, as we come out of this summit, is there something that we can do now, which we can come out and say, this is what we can implement, and this is what we can start next week in order to address some of these problems?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. For me, I just want to continue with the same question I raised in the morning, to say, what are the educators and subject advisors are saying about this? And why am I asking this question? It is because when you look at the nature of the subject, mathematics, this is a subject that needs basically two resources: book and learning materials, teaching and learning materials, as well as an educator. An educator is the main source in the teaching and learning of mathematics. And the question I'm always having when we come to the performance of mathematics, which is in line to what you are raising now, is the main resource in the form of an educator. Does he or she has a sound mathematical knowledge? How do we ensure that the mathematics educator in the class has a sound mathematical knowledge? And lastly,
in terms of content.
In terms of content, yes.
Okay.
And is the sound mathematical knowledge present in terms of content, in terms of pedagogy? Because earlier on, Boucher raised a very important issue to say, having a sound knowledge in the form of a content does not necessarily translate to good teaching of mathematics.
Yes.
But what is the key is how do you impart knowledge so that the sound knowledge of mathematics you have can seamlessly go to the next person that you are trying to affect. Thank you.
Let me come in. You can hear me. Thank you. Thank you so much for organizing this debate. I have to say, in the morning, the data presented to us by Tate Labani was quite striking to see that in our primary school, our grade 7s are doing 90% in maths, and then when we get to grade 8, it starts going down, and when they come to us at the university, it's even worse. So there is definitely something that is wrong somewhere, and it's something that we definitely need to address. But we could hear in the presentation by Prof Kize how he creatively made all of us fall in love with maths. We were liking the way he was pointing out, and we just think maybe these kids are not interested because the same boring teachers or X, Y. We have to think about creative way of getting their attention, because as we heard by Sue, it's about they learn by doing, but when they're interested, in the morning they talk to us about maths through play, they will get into it. So it's about how do we actually pass the message. But that gap, it's something I'm showing commission. We can see why is the decline from grade 7 to grade 8. We have to interrogate that. Maybe people at primary school are doing something wrong, or so it's about learning for understanding, and that can only happen when the kids are really involved, when they are really interested. And one question I was discussing with a colleague over lunch was, we hear educator, we're asking ourselves, how can we improve with these kids? Do we know their perspective? Because I think at grade 8 to 10 or to 12, the students, or at the university level, we need to interrogate also the student and ask them, why are your performances at this level? You can perform 90% at grade 7, and then you come at grade 8, you go to 60, and now we're trying to get 60% pass mark at matric. We can achieve that. So those are a few questions that I believe we can look at further when we get to the commission tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof.
To increase the learner participation, what we can do is to have academic support classes. You can also invite outside people to come and assist the students. For example, inviting Prof Kiza to come. On top of that, tutorials are very, very important. At school level, we do not offer tutorials. Yet at university we have tutorials, and we use top learners to run those tutorials. We use senior students. Perhaps we can even adopt a Uber model, request a tutor. Perhaps I'm at home trying to do a problem in mathematics, I'm finding a challenge. Then I can perhaps via WhatsApp request a tutor, request someone to assist me. Even information day, career guidance day, inviting universities, inviting chartered accountants, engineers, mathematicians, inviting alumni from your school, who were part of your school. You can invite them, they can act as role models, they can even act as mentors as well. Incentives, also giving students incentives. Students who are excelling, you can give them gifts like vouchers, you can even give them cash. You know what? The SGP must be involved. You see, students who are excelling must be given incentives, and those students, they must act as tutors. Another one that must be used by teachers, the professional learning communities. I'll make an example. In Umlazi, there's Menzi High School, there's Welibanzi High School, there's Velamashege, and there's Trigiga High School. The maths teachers, they work together. If they're going to deliver a topic, they meet, they discuss the topic, all right? They even share activities. They go and teach. Even if it's a test, they write common tests. All students, they even analyze the results. Students who failed, they set projects, to assist those students. Even top learners are part of the project to run those tutorials. So PLC, professional learning communities, are very, very important, because as a teacher, you also learn from your fellow teachers. Thank you.
Before we move on, let's just try and be a little bit practical. Who would be responsible, for example, when we're talking about coordinating academic support classes and the like, and tutorials? Who can we say, this is at your door? This school in a particular community, in Nkandla or something, you are going to be responsible for ensuring that these take place. Who is it at the hands of the head of departments or the subject coordinators? Who has this? Who should be given this kind of responsibility to ensure that these things take place? We can have wonderful ideas, but if no one takes ownership of the responsibility, then it might not happen. Any suggestions?
For me, it must be the subject teacher must be responsible, and must also report to the school management committee. That's very, very important. Produce a report. This is what I'm planning to do. Perhaps there is a need for financial support, therefore the school must support, you see, but the school teacher must be responsible. The subject teacher.
Okay, and ultimately the head of department of that department.
The other thing that I just wanted to add on is, firstly, we at this summit, I think everyone accepted that there's a problem, and that is very important as a starting point, that we have a problem and how we can deal with it. I remember some years, I don't know which years, as I was growing up, rugby as a sport to us was just a taboo. Rugby was not fashionable, and it improved from level where the community started playing rugby. Black learners at school started to participate At this present moment, rugby, doesn't matter where you are, it's a cool sport. And I think we are at the same situation where, with mathematics, the perception about it, either from communities or even from teachers who are involved in teaching mathematics, the perception is not what we want it to be. And that is step one, that we need to try and change the perception. I can tell you a story that when I was still proposing my wife some years ago, one of the things that she said is that I was really doubting to fall in love with you because you're doing mathematics. And I know teachers who are teaching mathematics are not normally here, so I thought maybe something. So it's a perception that the community is holding out there. And whose responsibility is it to change the perception? It's us. We must start with us. As teachers in the classroom, change perception. And how we change those perceptions, like you said, getting involved, have a community, like we say, communicate with each other. One of the best solutions that we had when we were presenting a primary school course was to have a WhatsApp group between the groups that are in the course together with the facilitator. And the facilitator will sign an agreement that he'll be able to, within 24 hours, respond to the queries of the teachers who are in the course. Within 20 hours, all teachers that have problems must be able to respond and get solutions. If he can't, he must escalate the problem. That is very important. Thank you.
Sorry, Mashogan, just to add on what my colleague has just said. In South Africa, we have a National Science Week, which is celebrated every year in August. And I think right now in South Africa, we see some fruits of that program because of more students taking on the science subjects. That is number one. So what that means to me is that I think it is high time that the MST director, in fact, I shared with him this when we were having the launch of National Science Week last year, that I think as a province, it is time that we begin to think of a week or a day or two of promoting mathematics in the province. Because the perceptions my colleague is talking about will never go away if we don't begin to promote mathematics. By the way, students at the university as well, they ask the same question: why am I doing mathematics?
Yes.
This is not the question that you hear at the school level. At the university where I'm teaching, engineering students will ask me, Professor, I'm sorry, where am I going to use the differential equations? You're teaching me differential equations. What is the use of this? I mean, if students at the university level are asking that question, clearly you can see that even what we do at university, we fail to make students realize that despite subjects that he or she is doing, it is because of him understanding the fundamentals of mathematics. And that is what the province is supposed to be looking at now, to say going forward, we want to dedicate a week of promoting mathematics so that the parent at home who has never gone to the university or to school and learn mathematics would begin to understand what is this mathematics and why my child has to cry every day doing mathematics. Because once we do that, people will begin to love mathematics because they know the outcome of getting involved into a mathematics subject.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. Firstly, my thought would be, You know, when we use the statistics or that is out there, the data, in terms of saying learners from primary school are doing well, the first concern for me is the reliability of the data. How reliable is that data? Because the instruments that are used to test these learners are surely very different. It's unlike when we are talking about high school, like maybe if I can use metric, for example. So maybe it's something that we need to ponder about when we talk about really trying to fix our results, because it's very easy to get 100% or 80%, but then it depends on the instruments, you know, because when you look at the level of difficulty, it could be a content difficult or context difficult. How are the tasks that our learners at the primary school really, you know, how do they get standardized? Maybe it's the question that we need to ponder about going forward. Then now we are talking about trying to improve performance in mathematics. Yes, I agree. You know, we have really a gap when it comes to grade 8 and 9. And from my experience is that in grade 8 and 9 is either you get a teacher, you know, it's like a relegation zone in some schools. Teachers who are not producing, they are pushed to grade 8 and 9. Or you get teachers in grade 8 and 9, like you get teachers who are also teaching high school. Now the problem with teachers who are teaching both from the GET and FET, in FET we teach mathematics as products. We teach on the basis of generalization, formulas. Now in GET, learners are supposed to be taught from processing level. You don't give them, you know, formulas. They must generate, you know, synthesize on their own, investigate. So then, now teachers teach the way they were taught, unfortunately.
Yeah.
You know, so I think is one of the gap that is there as subject advisors sitting here. We should be mindful of that. Seeing a teacher who's getting 100% in maths in grade 12, teaching grade 8, you, as a subject advisor for GET, you shouldn't just be excited and hope that result would be 100% in grade 8 as well. Because at high school level, grade 12, we also get results through drilling. We drill. But in grade 8 and 9, we don't need drilling. We need learners to investigate. We need learners to explore. So you might find that this teacher, because he's teaching the way he or she was taught, he will find, like in number patterns, you will find general formulas that are used in grade 12 being thrown in grade 9. Then learners are lost. So it's something that we need to really to be mindful of when we are trying to really fix our results. Then again, from my lived experience, you know, what I've come to understand is that when we are told that there are no teachers in your district, you know, as much as there are no, all of them, but you will find that now you start to ask them, which university did you graduate from? Which university? You profile them in terms of universities. Because from our lived experiences, we get teachers, all of them graduated from universities, but having different content knowledge. So, since we have HEIs here, I don't know, but I want to find out, when you are told that you must build a house, don't you need a specs, like a plan, no? If you need specs or plan for a particular house, like building or project, why are HEIs not using the same specs when they are training teachers for us? because I heard that they are getting subsidies. I don't know who should, tell who. But I believe if we are getting teachers from DUT, from UKZN, all of them have done VEd, we should be comfortable,
Yes.
Like they are comfortable. They know that when they are getting learners who have, let's say maybe 2022, they are told that this learner got 7 A's. You find that they are quick to say no, come for medicine. Why? Because they know even the question paper that the learner was subjected to, they know the specs for a person to get 7 A's. But we have a problem now when they are giving us graduates, because they are drawing from different inputs. It's a challenge. But again, we need to look at it. Maybe my last contribution would be, in our midst we have Dr. Makati will call them cream de la cream. Those teachers who are really top teachers. We have top teachers here. So, coming to Prof Khumalo's concern, really, I would like to hear their voice in this platform. Because only we want to increase performance.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question to say. What can you come up with some standard best practices when it comes to methods of effective methods of teaching mathematics that are targeted at learner retention? In other words, are there best practices that we can implement which give us a good chance of retaining our learners? And these are best practices that ought to come from our peers, or the teachers that are in the classroom and that have seen various methods and have tried various strategies and have come up with, have perfected their strategies, and they are successful. So it goes to what you are saying.
Yes, check. Because, I just want to say, when it comes to learner participation, here I have one educator that I happen to be, to know here. He's a top teacher. So, I know when he started teaching at his school, he had about 90 learners, and then they obtained 92%. Then the following year, he had 125 learners, they obtained 100% with 14 A's. Then last year, he had 120, they obtained 100% with 14 A's. Now the number this year, I asked him how many learners now. Now they are above, they are like hovering around 108. So you can see participation now is increasing. What is informing it? Is the result. The performance influence participation.
Yes.
So that educator opportunity is here. So I would like to hear them, if not obvious, not today, but during commissions, or maybe when it comes to presentations, let them really take podium and tell us so that the entire province can benefit. Thank you.
Thank you. Point taken. So that teacher would really love to hear from that colleague. Okay. Now, my next question. I don't know how much time we have until 8 o'clock. No. What role does language play in the teaching of mathematics? Does language have any role? In other words, native teaching. We know that there are concepts that we cannot express in our native languages, but there is a school of thought that if you are teaching the student, even if you may say still the fact that you are using the language, the native language of the student, makes it, even if the concept itself is not expressed in the natural language, there's a school of thought that often makes a difference in the student performance. What is your take on that one?
Yeah, I think it's massive. I think it's really, really significant. I think language is seriously important. I think it's often overlooked. I think really good teachers reframe things and reword things even within a language. So in other words, even as an English first language speaker teaching English first language students, I will often try and reframe something in order to make it more accessible, more digestible, break it down. I think the ability to kind of code switch and to explain something in a mother tongue language is really, really important and really useful, and that's why I'm continually trying to upskill my Zulu phrase book, because but I think it's hugely significant.
Thank you.
Yes, code switching is very, very important. At in high school, they run Saturday classes for learners who are from the Model C and private schools. Even Velmachen High School as well, they run support classes for those learners. I think it's because of this code switching. Teachers in the Model C and private schools cannot explain some concepts, some concepts in the Isizu. But that's why these learners, they go to the township schools to request help from the teachers. Even at the church, sometimes approached by some learners who are requesting some help. I do help as well. So code switching is very, very important. You shall get to
colleagues, I'm sorry, I'll have to totally disagree with my two panelists here, that the language is a cause for this kind of a problem we are faced with. Colleagues, mathematics is a language on its own. People are doing Isizu language, and how many of them get 100%? Doing Isizu language, how many of them will get 100%? There are students that sometimes fail Isizu, yet Isizu is taught in Zulu. Mathematics is a subject that has its own language. What is important is to understand the language of mathematics. For me, what I always say in the issue of mathematics is who is in the class in terms of the students. What is the attitude of the students sitting in class towards mathematics? What is the background of the students in the class? And who is teaching the subject? If we can sort out those two, we will never have a challenge in mathematics. We will never talk of a language being a challenge, because it has never been a challenge. I know professors have been presenting papers and conferences trying to tell us that maths is a problem because of this. That is absolutely not true in my view, as well as in my experience of teaching mathematics. Because mathematics has its own language. Once you master that language, you're fine in teaching mathematics. The person in class, what is his attitude towards mathematics? Then you are sorted. Thank you.
Yeah, look, I 100% agree that mathematics is a language, but you're not going to easily persuade me that the wording of something like 5 years ago, John was 4 times as old as his son, or at least as old as this. All of those things, I think code switching is going to be helpful. You're going to struggle to convince me otherwise.
Okay.
So our university, we are a bilingual university, Zulu and English. Some of the material that we develop, we translate it, Izibalo, Zulu. If they do not understand about English, then they can read Zulu and understand. We also organize some support classes. We invite chartered accountants who Black African CAs to come and assist students. Those students who are underperforming, if they are assisted by Black African CAs, they perform well because some of the concepts are explained. Amen.
Okay, thank you. Basically, you would say that learners are different, and all strategies are valuable, and they might work for some students. They might not work. Another strategy might work for one, another one might work for the other. I would say the last. Let me put the last question. Basically, what is the role of the advancement of technology in the enhancement of quality learning and teaching? And how practical is it in the landscape of our province to say technology is likely or unlikely to enhance learning and teaching? And to what extent is this practical?
Thank you so much. I want to go first, if you don't mind, about that important question. I mean, we had a lot of presentations today that we're all advocating the use of technology in the classroom.
Yes.
It makes things easy, it's efficient. As who discussed about that? Was that Sue? No. Who was it called? Sue. Sue did talk about that. So technology is very important. The issue we have is our learners are not technologically literate, especially some of the kids from rural area. They don't know much about computers and so on. So in terms of educator, indeed we can learn and put that in the classroom, but we also would love to see our learners get engaged. Like all the resources we put online, they need to be able to log in, they need to be able to stop the video on a smartphone or a computer, but some of them, the majority, don't have a computer at home. So that's a problem. So technology is good, we can take it to the classroom, but it would even be better if our learners were computer literate and they had access to all these gadgets and devices that we're using in order to improve their performance. Thank you.
Okay, I don't know if we,
So I think technology is a serious part of the solution to the challenges that we face. I don't believe that a good teacher will be replaced by technology, but I believe that technology can really complement what a good teacher can do. I think access is the bigger issue. I agree with you, but I think access is the bigger issue than the computer literacy. Kids take to computers quite easily, as we've seen with young kids with smartphones. I think the bigger issue is access. I do think, and I'm hoping that Starlink or Elon Musk's satellite internet is going to be a game changer. Bill Gates once said that people tend to overestimate the influence of technology in the short term and underestimate it in the longer term. And I think that's true. If you look at something like online shopping, you know, in about 2000, people said, oh, we'll be buying everything online within the next 3 years. That certainly isn't the case. But I think now we actually, if we look to where we are right now, we're staggered by how much we're buying online. I think education is going to be significantly and positively impacted by technology in the next 10 years, and I think it's a massive part of the solution.
Just one point. You know, earlier when Sue Santos was doing a presentation here, she projected here, and I think we're all fascinated by it. Why? Because first level of learning, especially in mathematics, when you want to integrate across topics, is visualization. So to achieve that it can be easily done in the context of math through technology. So it's just that we need to be empowered as teachers because obviously, first layer is we need to have a content command as teachers or as practitioners. Then secondly is the issue of how to teach it. Because when you use technology, it's part of how to teach it. So if the content command is up there, then you can think about the other strategies. But using technology, of course, definitely, it goes very well. Now, in mathematics, as we are talking about the language, there is a concept called nature of use in math. When you want to explain that to the learners, or if you teach it abstractly, even when you are doing factorization, what is it that we are doing? But if you have technology, learners can be able to understand that when you are doing factorization, you are getting the roots, and the roots can be displayed as a function. So we are integrating across topics immediately, rather than to teach topics in isolation. So that's where technology, I think, plays a pivotal role. But then is an accessibility is a problem in some areas in our region. Thank you.
Thank you. You contributing to that. I just wanted to go to the last.
When we talk about blended learning, blended learning involves the technology. It is your traditional teaching and learning methods plus technology. So now that is why we talk about asynchronous learning. You can learn anywhere, anytime because of this technology. That's why we also have the new learning theory called connectivism learning theory. Please take it down and read about it. It's very, very important. And learning is 24/7 because of this technology. It's no longer in class. It's 24/7. And one more thing, the CPA model is very, very important in mathematics. We talk about the concrete, pictorial, abstract model. In class, we normally teach the abstract, but technology is going to assist you for the pictorial, for the concrete as well. There is an important tool that you can use to teach in maths. Not only the data projector and the laptop. There is another tool called visualizer. It's like a document camera. We use the document camera at university. So visualizer is very, very important. You teach it, you teach using a visualizer, you can record, you can produce videos, you can print for students, material for students, whatever that you have been teaching using a visualizer, you can print it, you can email it to students, you can save it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, colleagues. One last point. Are there any identifiable challenges that are particularly specific to girl learners, which cause disinterest, poor performance, or dropouts among this particular group? Because my observation is that once they get to university, they tend to perform better than the men. But in the high school, there are challenges. There seems to be challenges in the high school scenario. And are there any identifiable challenges that they face in particular? And that's my last.
I don't believe that there are, and I'm actually interested that the data suggests that there are. And the reason I say that is in the independent school space, the boys' schools that I work in, we never compare our results with the girls' schools. The girls' schools results are much better. Yeah. And I think there's a couple of reasons for it. One, I think that the girls are more mature at a younger age. So than the boys, so they actually take their academics more seriously. I think they have less focus on sport than the boys' schools, and I'm now talking about privileged spaces as opposed to kind of the commons, like the whole country as a whole. I think the last thing, which for me is quite significant, is that in boys' schools, and I'm talking about the independent boys' schools, the teachers spend an enormous amount of time and energy on coaching sport and preparing their sports practices, whereas most girls' independent schools, the teachers just teach, and they have a separate group of people to coach. And the teachers, I think, are more engaged as a result. So, yeah, I mean, it's really interesting. So, all I guess, my long answer to your question, I don't believe that there's an inherent, I certainly don't believe that there's a gender kind of gap or a gender difference. If the system is, there might be systemic things that I'm not aware of, but I don't believe that there's a biological kind of difference at all.
Okay, any other opinion before we close? Okay, so I'm sure that maybe in later sessions we will get some more opinions based on your observations. And I wish to thank you for this time. Thank you.